Hi everyone. Today I've just learned that I am actually a tennis pusher. And for the ones who don't know what that means, this is actually somebody who wins the game but who plays a bad tennis. So a bad tennis, according to the technically sophisticated tennis players. So pushers, they usually have a bad reputation. So because they win, but it looks like they should not win. So all the good players, people who play every week, who play in a league, who are ranked maybe, they are always upset and they say, oh, you are a pusher, you don't know how to play tennis. But the pushers happen to win the serious tennis players. So there are a few things I want to say to those people complaining. The first one is that the pusher very often, they never learned how to play tennis. So they were not as lucky as you to go through, the serious tennis classes with a one-on-one professor. And they basically learned on the ground. And so that's probably deserves a fair amount of respect. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that if they are able to win, that means that at the end they were better than you. And you really have to handle that. You really have to accept it. Might be tough, you might say, oh, this guy, look, he doesn't even know how to do a forehand or a backhand, and I've been learning that for the past years, and he kicked my butt. So anyway, so you should also understand that tennis is combinations of different things, from the physical aspect, the technical aspect, and I guess this is always the weakness of the pushers, the strategical aspect, the speed aspect. You have to be fast, you have to anticipate. There are actually a number of parameters, and I really believe that the traditional players, the one who blame the pushers, are mostly focusing on the technical aspect of the tennis. And, which I see as wrong, because tennis is a sport. Like any other sport, the performance and the results are going to be based on a number of parameters, the one I just mentioned earlier. So being able to criticize a pusher just because he doesn't have a nice forehand or a nice backhand, and also assuming that because he doesn't have a beautiful backhand or forehand or serve, then you're gonna win. This is actually a wrong assessment, because you have to understand that you can be basically an athlete, you can have a brain, you can be creative, and maybe that will increase your chances to win. At the same time, you might have an extraordinary technique, but if you are lacking some other aspects, such as the anticipation, the intelligence of the game, the strategy, the analysis, then you might just lose. And actually, personally, I happen to be a pusher. Actually, a friend of mine mentioned that to me, that I was a pusher. I didn't even know about it. And I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I am. Because I can play against a number of good players, people who play on a regular basis, and I happen to beat them, and that makes them very upset. And now let's think a little bit why, because that's also critical. Why? Because I've learned tennis when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I learned with a racket that was just made of wood, like those what you use to cut, potatoes, I started with that. And, some people might laugh about it, but I really learned how to position myself, how to anticipate, how to hit the racket, even though it was not the right racket, how to be fast, how to be competitive, how to analyze. And, so that was an extremely profitable learning. And so I didn't have any tennis classes. Now, the second thing I want to tell you is that besides playing this kind of tennis, I also did a number of other sports, like judo. Judo taught me how to be tough, how to be resistant, how to be competitive, how to fight, how to analyze the strengths of my opponent, how to never give up, how to be fast, how to think fast. So those things that I'm mentioning right now, I'm using when I play tennis against those traditional players. Then I've learned a number of other sports like ping pong. Ping pong. You cannot imagine how much you learn for tennis when you learn ping pong. And by the way, one of my strengths or my weakness is my slices. I cut the ball all the times. And my opponents in tennis, they are totally not used to that. And they are basically losing all their mind because that makes them very frustrated. And they say, oh my gosh, this is such a pusher. And this is really when they start criticizing me. And then, by the way, I also played a lot, so much squash and racquetball. And my gosh, you can't imagine how much good that can be for your tennis skills just by playing those sports, because you're gonna hit the ball on the net. I am so much using everything I've learned in squash and racquetball when I'm on the net playing tennis. And yes, I am fast, and yes, I try to hit all the balls, and I try to place them at the right place. And this all came from my squash and my racquetball, years of competitive experience. So finally, what I would like to say is that, when you judge a pusher, and it's very easy to say, oh, it's just a pusher, and put them on the side and blame them. But I can tell you that there is really, really a lot that you can learn from them. And my conclusion also is that if you take a serious tennis player, like somebody who is high in the ranking, they will not have one single issue playing against a pusher, because they have so much experience, so much technique, so much skills, so much mental strength that a pusher is like a joke for them. So this is my comment about being a pusher. I take credit for being a pusher, and it's just life that made me a pusher. And obviously, if when I was 6 years old my parents paid me some tennis classes, I can guarantee that I would not be such a pusher. I wish you to enjoy tennis. This is an amazing sport for everybody. Best of luck.